Welcome, everyone. My name is Andy Sear. I'm the Director of Strategic Communications and Constituent Engagement for the University of Utah Alumni Association. And I want to welcome you today to our second virtual career coaches panel. It's brought to you by U Alumni. And before I get started, I wanted to remind our audience, we've got two networking and career events coming up to hold on your calendars. We're going to have those. We're trying to have these on the last Wednesday of the month. And so right now we're looking at one on Wednesday, July 29th, and then another one on Wednesday, August 26th. We're hoping that you can join us, and we'll be sending out an email or several emails about those events. So keep an eye out for our Forever Utah virtual email events that we send out on a weekly basis. And now I want to introduce our panelists. For those of you who were here last month when we did this, some of these faces will be familiar. But first, we have Sarah Bowman from the Bowman Group. And Sarah is an executive coach. She's a management consultant too, who works one-on-one with clients as they pursue their goals like advancement, improving communication skills, transitioning to a new profession, increasing earning potential, or finding greater job satisfaction. And she specializes in storytelling and somatic feedback, neuralistic programming, and executive presence. So she's got a lot of different expertises she can share. And Sarah has a wide range of experience in public administration, management, government, and financial services. So welcome, Sarah.
Thanks, Andy. It's great to be back.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And next we have Melissa Ceballos. And Melissa, she's got nearly 20 years of experience in roles in HR and talent acquisition. She's done work in sales, marketing, business development. Her real true passion is to just help people. In everything she does, she focuses on developing really strong and meaningful relationships. And she wants to align the resources that she has available to the needs of the people she has her relationships with. She was born and raised in Southern Cal, and she moved to Utah to attend school. She's a graduate of the U, Bachelor in Communications. It's good to have you back, Melissa.
Great to be back, Andy. Thanks so much.
And now I want to introduce Pat Vaughn. And Pat has nearly 30 years of professional recruiting and coaching experience. She has worked with premier organizations like Disney and Cisco Systems. She focuses on real world problems, and she moves quickly to resolve issues. So she's really about getting to answers and solutions quickly. She's a creator of Tiger Tactics and Tight Markets, Tough Tactics. Those are both programs that she taught through continuing ed here at the U. And Pat provides unique insight to over age 50 concerns, to artists and artist transitions, and then international clients. She's done a lot of international work. So thanks for joining us, Pat.
Thank you, Andy. It's really a pleasure to be back again. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, I want to introduce, we have our newest coach in our referral network. So we have our U Alumni Career Coach Referral Network. And our newest coach is Julio Garreau. Now, Julio is the founder of a company called Human Architecture. They do executive coaching, business consulting. He assists executives and business owners to identify the important areas that tend to live in their blind spot. Julio is known as the human architect, and it's for his ability to get individuals and organizations to operate by design rather than by circumstance. He's an author. I've actually read his book. He's a public speaker and a coach. Julio was born in Chile, and he immigrated to the US and joined the Army. He served our country for 30 years, and 18 of those were in US Special Forces, so in the Green Berets. He's passionate about physical activity. He's way into it. He's done, I think, 56 marathons and 5 or 6 ultra marathons. Anyway, Julio's really into excelling in everything he does. And so we just want to welcome you, Julio, to our network. Thanks, Julio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so we're going to start off today, and we're going to really kind of focus on 3 areas. And the first, we're going to talk about the value of coaching. And I really want to get some perspective from our coaches on what the value is, because coaching can get a little expensive. I do know, and I've had some coaching in my past, but it's been incredibly worthwhile. I would say that one of the nice things about our referral network is we have a special agreement with our network coaches, and there will be an initial free consultation, just kind of a get to know you, see what you need, 15, 20-minute kind of thing. And then after that, there's a set fee, and it's a pretty reduced rate, but it's 2 sessions and for a combined total of $150. And so that's how, just to let everybody know, that's how the coaching works up front, so people know. But I think people want to know what the value of that is. So I wanted Pat to say, okay, so if I'm paying you, Pat, for your services, what is it that I'm getting from any coach, but particularly from a career coach? What do I get for the money?
Andy, that is just an absolutely great question, and one that is asked all of the time. When you were talking about the expense involved, it actually reminded me of a very old commercial that used to be run on TV for a very expensive product. And it ended by simply saying, "You're worth it." So sometimes we just have to look and say, are we worth investing in ourselves? But mostly, I think we need to look at career advisors, career coaches, in the same light that we do any profession. Do you do your own taxes, or do you have a tax professional do that for you? If you're involved in litigation or something as serious as a divorce, do you do that by yourself, or do you seek the assistance of a divorce lawyer, an attorney? And we can go on and on about real estate brokers or whatever, but the question is again, are you worth investing in for yourself? When you look for work, when you look for a career move, it's really important to find someone that you can have honest, candid, and open conversations with. And frequently, that's not your best friend or your partner, significant other, or spouse, because you become somewhat vulnerable. So you have to build a relationship with someone that you can just speak very honestly and get someone to point you in the right direction. Someone who is working on your behalf to make a difference, especially say when it comes to salary negotiations. You want to talk to someone that can advise you and help coach you through that process. I kind of think about career coaching a little bit as the Weight Watchers of the career world. In other words, can you lose weight by yourself? Yeah, you can. Can you find a job by yourself? Sure, you can. But as the Weight Watchers or the career advisors in your career, we keep you on task, moving towards your goals, and make you accountable with weekly meetings and weekly updates. So can you do it yourself? Sure. Should you do it yourself? It all depends on if you want to invest in yourself or not. Are you worth it?
Okay, well, thanks, Pat. No, I appreciate that. And I do love that idea of investing in yourself, because it's easy to invest in that leaky roof, but sometimes,
Right.
sometimes you got to take care of the big picture. So I very much appreciate that. So Melissa, what do you think? What's the value of coaching?
Yeah, I'll add my perspective on it. I would say that I often use the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. And I use an example from a life experience that I had not too long ago, where I had a career transition. Spent 19 years with a company and transitioned, like I said, after the only career I had ever had. And I remember getting outplacement services, so an opportunity to work with a career coach. Now, granted, Andy, I had spent 15 years with this organization as a hiring manager, as a talent acquisition manager, a recruiter. So I had been on the other side of the desk. And in my opinion, I felt, I know everything there is to know about a job interview. I know everything there is to know about a career search. And I took the opportunity to work with a career advisor, and it was very eye-opening to learn about things that I didn't even realize that would help me navigate the process to really set myself apart, to really negotiate salaries, to really just work with someone one-on-one that would customize a plan for me and really help me in, when we think about a career search, this isn't just settling. We want the best. We want the best opportunity that can be presented out there. So I think when you can work with someone who is an expert and who is a professional in this craft, it's going to be well worth the time and money that you spend, because what you put into it is what you get out of it. And the more you put in and the more you invest, as Pat has said, the better the result you're going to get in that next career opportunity.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. That's a very good point. I do think, yeah, you by investing in yourself and believing in yourself and asking those right questions, you're going to get somewhere. And I know it's, like I said, when I've used a coach in the past, it's been incredibly helpful because it gets you from point A to point B. And I think, it's important to remember that coaching is something that is, a sign of you taking charge of your life and asking someone else to assist you along. Right. And so I think that's important. And specifically, I want to talk about, and for Julio, I'm going to ask Julio this question. How important is coaching in terms of both finding a job, but also once you get a job, is it important to kind of get you going in the right direction and make sure that when you start that new job, that you're doing the things that are going to impress your boss or impress, the people you need to, and how do you get going on the right foot?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very important to be able to have a strategy when you get a new job to see where you're going to go. Depending on the size of the organization you're going to work for, there are places where you can go. You can climb the ladder from the bottom floor all the way to the executive suite. And it's up to you to be able to be aware of that. A lot of people just get the job and they're comfortable with the job. I always like to quote Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google. When he went to work for the first time and meet with the board of directors, somebody say, "Do you have a coach?" And he say, "No, I don't have a coach. I've been a CEO for 18 years. I don't need a coach." And the chairman of the board say, "You will have a coach, and this person here is going to be your coach." And he said, "Well, gee, I don't know how all these years without having a coach." For me, it has been very interesting, when people use the word, the coaching is expensive. It's not a purchase. You don't purchase coaching. You invest on coaching. And the value you're going to get is, sometimes you cannot measure it with a dollar bill. The things that you're going to produce with the client, they're way, way, way beyond what they're going to get. Way beyond what they're going to get. So, it's an investment on you, and it's something that stays with you for the rest of your life. The things that you're going to learn, the challenges you're going to get. And one of the most important things I do when I'm coaching is to provoke my client to think. So if you go into a new job, I'm going to provoke you to see what are the possibilities that are available here, where are the places you can go, and then how to prepare you for that particular opportunity that's available to you. That's priceless.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that viewpoint, and that is incredibly important, Julio. Yeah, I mean, you've got to have that, like you said at the beginning, you've got to have that strategy when you do get that job and know where you're going. And so, but speaking of that, I think an important question, and one we wanted to get into, was with the pandemic and with the economy and the slump that it's in, a lot of people have lost their jobs, whether they've been laid off, furloughed, however, they've been separated from their employment. And so that could be kind of a soul crushing event, even if it was caused by nothing within your control. So I wanted to ask Sarah, what do you do when that happens to you? When you get, sometimes they call it getting hit by the cosmic 2x4. How do you get back on track? What do you do to get back to where you were and to feel good about yourself and to have that confidence you need to get a new job?
Sure. There are a couple of things I would suggest to help you build back your confidence after a job loss. First, pay particular attention to self-care and self-compassion. I'm not talking about bubble baths. I'm talking about the adulting things like going for a jog or a walk so you get a hit of endorphins, keeping your home clean, addressing any mental or physical health concerns, in addition to the fun stuff like taking a bubble bath. I think of it almost as parenting yourself. You need equal doses of both spoiling yourself and tough love. The second thing I would do is a lot of self-exploration about the reasons why you aren't feeling confident. Be bold, acknowledge it's probably going to be really uncomfortable to examine, but then ask yourself what those insecurities are. You really need to lean into them and explore them in order to understand them, and allow yourself to create a game plan for how to address them. A great resource for this is Brene Brown's book, Rising Strong. And then the last thing, I don't care if this sounds corny, deep breathing exercises. You have to remember that losing a job is biologically and neurochemically a scary thing because our jobs are tied to our survival instincts. So losing a job creates a stress response of cortisol and adrenaline that persists for a lot longer than is actually helpful. Deep breathing is a simple, scientifically proven biohack that will stop that stress response and help your body remember it's not under attack. Just a quick note for anyone who might be interested, the meditation app Headspace is offering a year of free membership to people who have lost their jobs. They have a ton of great resources. I love it. It's a great thing. So check it out if you're interested. So just to recap, self-care, lean into your insecurities, and deep breathing.
Thanks, Sarah. Those are really good points. And, I hadn't even thought about the deep breathing. I use it a lot, but it makes complete sense because you get into a stressful situation, and losing your job is very stressful. So those are three great points. I wanted to ask Julio, I know you've worked with both college students and with CEOs, and I've just wondered about, if you have advice to them or to anybody who's lost their job or who's facing any kind of adversity, right? What are some keys to building your resiliency so you can bounce back, and when tough things do happen, that you can get right back and get back in the fight, as they say?
Well, when you lose your job or you go from college, to get your first job, definitely it's going to be a void there. The space, it's nothing in there. It's just like no even air. So I think the most important thing in that case is to be able to be present to yourself. Sarah says, take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself first. Don't go over there and try to buy a bottle when you don't know what is your strengths and what are your weaknesses. When you have your strengths in front of you and use those strengths to be able to start escalating, climbing the ladder of where you're going to go. And that's when the strategy can be created based on your strength, where you want to go, how you want to get there. And again, I told you before, what is to observe differently? I use that term, observe differently. My book, and I'm not pushing my book. My book is called The Observer, and it's about observing differently, being a different observer. The way you see the world is not the way the world is. So when I provoke you to think, I want you to see a different world, because otherwise you will never go anywhere. You will discover new worlds when you take a second look at everything, where's your relationship, your job, your health, your well-being, your children. You take a second look and you're going to discover things that you've never seen before. And that is where the gold is. I say that's what the golden nugget is. When you find the golden nugget, just take care of the golden nugget and you're going to move up very quickly.
Oh, that's good, Julio. Yeah, I do think that whole idea of observation and, your point of view is very important, because let's face it, when you do lose your job, you kind of, the world is swirling around you and you need to gain some perspective. And I think, finding like a coach helps you find that objective perspective. And I was actually going to ask Pat about that. So in terms of, and we touched on this before, but how important is it, if you do lose your job, to be able to take stock of your strengths and your weaknesses and to be objective about what those are? And maybe you need a third party to help you with that objectivity.
We often do need a third party to help us realize what our successes are. So losing a job, I mean, is like someone has died in your life. Your job has died. And so you certainly are permitted to have a grieving process. But the shorter the grieving process and moving on, the better the timeline is for you. And there is no better exercise I've found than really meticulously sitting down from the very beginning of your career and writing down what those successes are. Now, that's an exercise that you're actually going to use to beef up your resume anyway, but you will begin to see the patterns of the success, those that you have helped, projects you have led, any success along the way. And pretty soon that melancholy can change and say, I've done really quite well. I'm quite impressed with my successes, both big and small. And so that's one way that you can very quickly begin to lift yourself up a little bit.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I mean, that keeping that positive aspect, and when you do list those successes, you realize it kind of brings you back to that kind of your positive energy and your positive space, and allows you to move forward. So I think that's a really good point.
And you also begin to take stock of positions that you really liked and evaluate, why did I like that job so much? Was it the people? Was it the work? Was it the environment? And so those are things that you can begin to build upon so that you can move forward to a position that you're going to want to spend your time pursuing.
No, very good. So let's say, now we'll take it, let's just say we have gotten back on track, gotten our confidence back. We've been offered a job, or at least an interview. We've been offered an interview. So what is it? I'm going to ask Melissa this question. I want to know, what is it that's going to allow me to shine in an interview, and particularly at this point in time, an online interview, because that's mostly what's happening right now.
Sure. Right. And it is a little bit different, although I would say that it's important to prepare for an online interview very similarly to an in-person interview. All the things that you would be doing if you were to meet someone in person, you should still be taking those same steps, researching the company, making sure that you know what the expectations are of this interview in terms of time, place, location, who you're meeting with, how many resumes you'll need to bring for is it going to be a panel interview? Is it just one person? As you said, because things have gone to an online virtual setting, we don't have the capability to, take a folder of resumes and hand them out when you're in person. You'll need to know and email those beforehand to make sure that everyone who will be interviewing you will have your resume or cover letter or information that's required for the interview in hand prior to the meeting. A big thing to really be prepared for is the technology piece, and really make sure that to have a successful interview, you are set up, that you preferably have a laptop or a PC that you are working on. Try not to do a Zoom or, an online interview on your phone, because most likely you'll have to hold that, and you could be fumbling with it and you won't have your hands free to express yourself or to pull your resume and really look for information to answer questions. Make sure you're in a quiet room, that you have good Wi-Fi so there's no interruption in your conversation. Make sure that you have no distractions. You lock yourself in that room so you don't have interruptions of kids or background noise or pets. And prepare in a way like we are today. We are online, and you have to know, how are you going to present yourself in that interview? Test it beforehand, test the technology, sign on or log in a little bit early so you make sure there are no hiccups. Make sure that you can see how you're presenting yourself in that interview. Still go prepared, professionally dressed in business attire. Make sure that you're groomed well, that you are not taking this casually just because you may be at home in your living room or your bedroom, that you're treating this like you are going into a corporate office and you are having that in-person interview. So a lot of the same same things apply, but make sure to keep in mind the technology piece. Anything that you cannot do in person, make sure you're prepared beforehand. And again, just making sure that you're well prepared and you can anticipate any hiccups that may happen, so you're not distracted and you don't put your best foot forward.
Yeah, no, that's a really good list. And 101, yeah, have your resume ready, make sure it's in the hands of folks when they are there, because it's so important. I've seen that a lot in a interview where somebody doesn't bring copies of their resume, and there may be one or two people on the panel that just haven't had a chance to look at it, or they've looked at it but they don't have it with them. And those are the kinds of things that, yeah, you've got to make sure in an online environment you've got a stack of digital resumes to hand out. That's good. Sarah, have any tips? That was a really good list of tips from Melissa. I was wondering if you had any to add to that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Melissa said. Just underlying the basic etiquette and niceties continue to help you stand out as a candidate. Things like joining the chat room a few minutes early, turning your phone off, trying to address people by names when you can, sending thank you emails after the interview. All of those things will help you stand out. On a similar note of being prepared that Melissa talked about, I know we all love the idea of being able to attend meetings while not wearing pants, but it doesn't do you any good in an interview scenario. Wearing a proper outfit will help you get into the right frame of mind. So put your pants on. You got to do it. Sorry. One thing that's specific to online interviews, I think we all have given each other a lot of grace as we've shifted so quickly to working from home. But the longer this pandemic goes on, I think people will expect it to have people will expect each other to have it together a little bit better than they did back in February and March. So if something does happen, like the kids run into the room unexpectedly, even though you talk to them about it, there's a sign on the door, or the dog barks uncontrollably at the postman, or your mom FaceTimes and it interrupts your video feed, do your best to handle the interruption and the embarrassment with poise and humor. Take a few seconds to collect yourself. Nobody will blame you for wanting to be composed and for taking some time to just kind of collect. And in fact, I think how you handle an unexpected interruption might honestly help you if you can handle it confidently like a boss. I'd also say before the interview, as you're practicing your responses to the potential interview questions, practice how to respond in the event of an interruption. Just an idea.
That's great. Thank you. And, we're getting close to our wrap up time here. And I did want to at least take, we've had a couple questions. We probably have time for one question that came in on the chat. And let's see. Well, Julio, this is an interesting one. Somebody wants to know if you think there's been more, because of the online interviews and because of some other things that are going on, is there more age discrimination during COVID-19? That's an interesting question, especially when it comes to jobs and looking for a job.
Yeah, usually when you send your resume to somebody by email, they don't see your face, they don't see you how you're dressed. Now, when we are online and we can see each other, I think, like Sarah said, you got to have your pants on, because it's very important to show up in a particular way. I think people is getting more relaxed about the interviews online, like we're talking in here. And as the time go by, I think this is going to be the thing to use. I think things that we used to do before, no longer they're going to be useful. And you can save time, you can save money, you can save a lot of things by doing it online. You can be interviewing in China, for that matter, and it's like we're talking right here. So yeah, it's going to be very important, like we discussed it, to be able to know how to present yourself in a professional way. That you look at the background that is going to be when you are on the video, and how you're going to show up. Lighting is very important. And sound is very important. Like they say that the dog is barking or something being interrupted by exterior forces. So yeah, it's about practicing. It's going to take a lot of practice. And I talk to some of my executives right now. I have a company that we're doing a lot of radio advertising. So we're trying to see, well, how are we going to do a radio advertising that really is going to hurt you right in the heart? We don't want you to hurt you here. It's an emotional advertising. We want to hit you right in the emotional part of you. And if you can hit the potential client there, you have a listening that's going to be looking for you. What are you saying? What are you promoting? Where you are, how you get to in communication with us. So I think that practicing, doing it just for practice is very valuable. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you. And I think you're right, Julio, that emotional connections are really important right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, through Zoom. It's hard to do online, and making that emotional connection with a potential employer is very important. And so we have to do everything we can, and whether that's practice or, digging into our successes or breathing before an interview so that you're relaxed and you're not tense, and because that tension will keep you from connecting with people emotionally. So those were all
the other thing, if I may add, is yesterday I was listening the Toastmaster meeting, online, and one of the speakers, it was with the hands up and down and moving left and right. It's very hard to follow the person. It's very hard to follow. So you need to train yourself. If you want to use your hands, you can use your hands a little bit, but do not use your hand or arm for moving left or right like we used to do it. It's very easy to be able to be centered and be able to be the center of attention on the screen.
Yeah. No, that's very good. Well, I want to thank Pat Vaughn and Julio Garro, Melissa Ceballos, and Sarah Bowman for joining us today as our career coaches. I thought they had some really good insights. And if you want to follow up with them, just go to our website. It's alumni.utah.edu, alumni.utah.edu. Find the career coaches section, and you'll be able to track them down. You can contact them directly. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and go Utah.